The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Asbury Park Press, the Star Ledger, the Independent, and the True River Times, and by posting at the Middletown Township Municipal Building and filing with the Township Clerk all on October 16, 2014. Deputy Mayor Sedembrino. Committeeman Fiore.
Here.
Committeeman Massell. Committeeman Scharfenberger.
Here.
Mayor Murray. Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to honor the troops serving worldwide, defending our freedoms and way of life. Thank you. Committeeman Massell.
Here.
At this time, we have a public hearing. The purpose of the meeting, of this public meeting, is to offer the general public the opportunity to make suggestions or comments in writing or in person concerning Middletown Township's Monmouth County Open Space Grant application to convert the football field at the Croydon Hall property located at 900 Leonardville Road, Leonardo, New Jersey, 07737, known as Block 682, lots 4, 5, 6, 52, and 53, and 54, from grass to synthetic turf.
Is there anyone wishing to make a comment regarding this item?
Is that a public comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Did anybody else want to make a comment? I have a few questions. Can I ask those? I've never been to one of these meetings before.
Sure, but if you could just give us your name and address.
Of course,
sure.
no problem. Should I stand up? Is that better for everyone?
Sure.
Okay. My name is Jennifer Razzo, and I live in Middletown. And I just have a few questions.
Your address for the record.
Oh, 14 Chanceville Place.
And how do you spell your last name?
R-O-Z-Z-O.
Okay, thank you.
My question is, when was it decided that they were going to put it at Croydon Hall was an option and not Thorne Middle School, which we were originally told it was going to?
Well, the administrator can attest. We've been working on the Shared Services Committee. There's an agreement with the Board of Education to do either turf or synthetic on the north side of town. We've been working with the Board of Education in lockstep. The issue is we had sent our engineers and started the process for Thorne Middle School. When they did the samples of the, I guess they have to go down to check how deep they hit groundwater. Within 2 feet they hit groundwater at Thorne Middle School, which makes a turf field pretty much impossible without having to build it up, and you know, at the cost of nearly $2.6 million to do so. So it was economically unfeasible. We had then told the Board of Ed we're happy to do a grass field at Thorne. The president of the Board of Ed at the time, who was at this time was on the Shared Services Committee, and the other member from the Board of Ed did not want that. They wanted turf somewhere north. We looked at Middletown North, where they were trying to put it in. High School North, excuse me. That location also was unfeasible for a variety of reasons, notwithstanding spatial and moving other fields. We then looked at Ocean Avenue, we looked at Bayview, we looked at every other location. Finally, because there was no real work, there was no real movement with the Board of Education and to move our agenda forward, we basically had conversations with board members and said, look, either we're going to do grass at Thorne right now, which we still, you know, are working with them to do. So I don't want to take Thorne out of the equation. But there's a grant coming up for the county has a grant program that we figured that we'd like to try to participate in. And the most feasible location would be Croydon Hall, which would also give accessibility to Bayshore Middle School, because it's walkable and they'd be able to use it just like they have to walk across the street at Thompson to get to Nutswamp. So to not lose the ability to apply for the grant, which is the purpose of this meeting, we decided to move forward with it, and you know, we will still give the Board of Education first priority. It's our goal to use it for the school facility, both middle, if they want to use it for high school, lacrosse, but...
so it's up to the Board of Education who
it is, and quite candidly, they did not push the agenda for a grass field at Thorn.
Really? Okay. Because that was my next question. And I heard, and again, I'm kind of out of the loop as to what happened at Nut Swamp, but I heard there were also water issues at Nut Swamp that was fixed to make the turf field work. That was not true?
As a matter of fact, there was so much extra dirt that we were able to spread it into another field.
So that's what all that extra dirt was, because everyone said there were
It
dirt.
was all just because you had a little bit of undulation there that they had to.
Okay, so there was no water issues at Nut Swamp that need to be corrected. Okay, that was.
As a matter of fact, I live about in a quarter mile of there and just dug a pool and probably never hit water going 8 feet, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so this is basically a timed, this grant, if we don't apply for it a certain time and say where you're going to put it, we're gonna lose that money and there'll be no turf
We
field.
didn't get approved, but we had a deadline to
Okay.
apply.
When you apply for the grant, you have to give them a specific proposal. You can't just apply for the
Yeah,
grant.
just say, we're gonna
So
put it
you have
around.
to give them a specific location, preliminary design, drawings, and details, cost details and all of that in order to apply for the grant. And we did this actually a while ago, and we already had a public hearing on it. The reason we're having a second public hearing is the county had indicated that they wanted us to list the block and lots differently than the way we did in the original notice, so it's kind of a technical thing. So we're just doing that to comply with them, even though we think it's a silly request, but we're doing it, and so we're having a second public hearing.
Because a lot of people are under the impression that the field was going in at Thorn. And when they heard it was going in at Croydon, was a little annoyed, because it always seems, and I know all of you are probably from here, that the south side always seems to get stuff first, and the north side is always kind of left hanging.
We hate when
I
people
hate
say that because
I
that's
know,
so not true.
But when you're from the north side and you see south side got their field first, no problem,
I lived on
and
the
you know,
north side
it's,
for 10 years.
you know.
I mean, I see what you're saying there, but I mean, they built a field house at north before south. You know, it's just, I get it.
Yeah.
You know, Middletown days on the north, I mean, I get the divide, but that has nothing to do with it.
North's turf field was built first, right?
No, I think south was, and it was built better than.
Well, north was built,
That's
north was
South
built first, but south's got done first.
South got
Yeah,
finished first.
there we go.
North's got built
North's
first.
got built
And north had a bunch of problems
That's
with
just a
their,
bunch
with
of
their turf
nonsense.
field.
None of that stuff happens. And the reason Nut Swamp was first was because we knew that was the field we could do the quickest, because there were no existing fields there. Everywhere else you go, you're relocating somebody's field. You're taking fields out of service, right? If you go to Thorn, their fields are going to be out of service for a while. That slows down the process because you may have to stop when their season is in play. That wasn't an issue at Nut Swamp, so that's why it made sense to do that one first, so to get experience doing fields, because we hadn't built a turf field before as a township, and so that's why that was chosen first, because it had the least obstacles. We always kind of thought Thorn might be a challenge because of environmental reasons, groundwater and wetlands reasons, which it turned out it was a problem. That's why we said, well, we'll do a first-class grass field at Thorn. And that decision was, no, we don't want that. We want turf somewhere on that side of town.
Right.
So we then had to pursue the next best location to do turf, synthetic turf. And the next best location turned out to be Croydon because there's an existing football field there. There's very little extra disturbance that's going to happen when that field gets built. And all we have to worry about is one football season. You know,
And you're talking about like it'll be built where the
Right on the
football
football
field
field.
is right now.
It'll be bigger, a little bigger, but basically right on top of it.
And just to even allay the concern even a little bit further, I mean, technically speaking, if you really wanted to know from a recreational purpose how we want to make sure that this is done in North, the real right location would be to just put it right next to the one we just did, somewhere, you know, so you have a complex. But that's not what we're doing because, to your point, we want to make sure, the Board of Ed wanted to make sure that we also afford the same ability for another middle school, which ultimately will be Bayshore in this instance. But trust me when I tell you, we wanted to build turf. We spent $1.4 million on Nut Swamp. We're not going to spend $2.7 million at Thorn. I mean, it just doesn't make economic sense. You could build two. But this, you know, this was a Board of Ed decision not to build the grass.
Now my next question is, the grass field, is that a separate issue that the Board of Ed has to pay for, or is that the township working with the Board of Ed?
We're working with
and like a different grant kind of thing?
There wouldn't be a grant for that, but we have a cost estimate that we can do that for, and we're working that out in our capital. But remember, you can only do one thing at a time, right? So it's
no, definitely.
It's until we get the go-ahead from the Board of Ed to say build a grass field on Thorn, there's going to be no grass field. It's their property, and we haven't gotten that go-ahead.
So we really need to more push the Board of Ed to get that moving. And my next question, just back to the turf fields, Have any of you done the research, I've seen the research on turf fields causing cancer?
I've seen
And those
it.
turf, my kids don't even play soccer or on turf, so which is kind of funny,
So-
but there's like turf balls or something they get in them.
So the answer is, there have been some media reports about it. I'm not
Mhm.
sure there's been any studies, any scientific studies to it. But understand that we're not turning, we have, what, 20 some odd grass fields. This is not the goal to build turf fields everywhere.
I agree.
It's a goal that turf fields are something that's used to, A, rest grass fields, or if you have wet conditions, turf fields allow the kids to continue to play on it from a surface perspective. But, yeah, the goal is not to put people on 24/7 turf, and I think that what you're probably reading, or I've seen the same MSNBC reports,
Yeah.
I think the issue there is that it's mostly, maybe they're predominantly playing, those colleges are predominantly playing on turf all the time. I don't think you're ever going to have that scenario here in the township, so.
I don't think they've tied any cases of
No.
cancer to it. In fact, that bottle has cancer-causing agents in it.
Right.
So, that's the material. Look at how much is left.
Too late now.
But we do understand.
Okay.
And that's how
I think that was all my questions.
One thing I just wanted to point out too, if you ever want to get a sense of the balance between north and south, look at our capital program, where you see the streets that are being paved. As many, if not more, in the northern part, because we hear this a lot, gee, everything gets
I'm sure you do, yeah.
So just take a look, because we really try to be equitable with this large township we have. And I think we do a very good job. So
Murphy
you can
Road is
see.
a perfect
Well,
example.
we're doing Wilson now, and Maine is
That's
next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Both in Fort Myers.
Great questions.
All right, well, thank you so much, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi. Linda Baum, 19 Make Court. Could you talk a little bit about who will have access to the field, how the time on the field will be divvied? Now, just to piggyback on some of the questions that were already asked, it was mentioned that the Board of Ed would have the authority over that, would be, I guess, coordinating. I guess there's a way to sign up.
No, it doesn't work that way. The way it works is during school hours, and immediately after school, the Board of Education has priority use of that field, just like they do at Middletown. After school and on weekends, when the school's not using them, they're a Parks and Recreation facility, and we permit them the use and the time in those fields.
What's considered, after school? Obviously, they have extracurricular activities
After
where,
school.
school might close
Right.
at 2 or 3, but then they're using it until 4 or 5.
Right,
So
they have priority for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would the cutoff be for when?
Whatever their cutoff is.
Okay, it's up to them.
Yeah.
And since that field is on the Croydon Hall property, obviously you have a private school there. Would they have access to it? And if they do, at what times? I mean, obviously that's a private school and it's going to be public property.
Well, they have access to it now, but they have to request and permit the fields, just like any other user. So that school that's there, if they want to use a field on the property or another field in town, they have to request a permit for it and reserve time for it.
Secondly, their lease agreement would expire well
And more
before
likely they'll be gone by the
this,
time
this field is
the field's built.
Okay, would they have access to it during the same hours that the Board of Ed has the
The Board of
priority
Education
use?
would have priority access to the field during school hours, if they happen to still be there.
Okay, but what you're saying is that if it's available, and the Board of Ed okays it, that Trinity can use
Yeah,
it during
if it was
those
available, sure.
times? But they would have to
The Board of
okay it
Ed
with our
doesn't
Board of
pay.
Ed?
Yeah. Yeah, it would be available if the Board of Ed didn't need it and Trinity asked to use it. If they happen to still be there, they could request a permit for it, and they pay for a permit for it.
The Board of Ed does not pay for
The
this.
Board of Ed doesn't pay for permits.
And when the cost of the permit, is that per use? Is that
It's per
for the
2 hours
season?
time slot.
Right, in line with the new rules?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they pay just exactly like anyone else does.
Okay.
Trinity does.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, I move to close public portion.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Committeeman Sharpenberger.
Yes.
Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Motion carries to close public hearing and adopt, or approve.
Approve. Sorry, there you go. Sorry about
We have Township Committee comments.
I think I made enough comments.
No comments?
No comment from me either.
But good questions.
Thank you,
Anyone?
thank you for answering my
No
question.
problem. Anybody from the public wishing to make another comment?
I'm done, I'm good.
Okay, move to close public portion and adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys for bringing this.
Yep.